Here we are again. Another video about the tarot, and I want to tell you that it's the tarot itself will tell you who, what, where, when, how, and why about anything that you ask. Okay, so there's an earlier video called The 2.5 Most Important Things You Need to Know If You're Going to Read for Yourself or Other People. And point one was, remember the question, because the meaning of a card depends in many cases, or in many ways, it depends on the question that's been asked. And point two was, rather than look at a card and try and figure out what it means, ask what sense it makes. And that's in the earlier video if you want some detail there. So there's new information in this one. And I'm calling it the other two most important points you need to know, blah, blah, blah. So the first point has to do with movies, and the second one has to do with philosophy. So the first point is that the tarot is visual. And we're dealing with pictures. So there's, for instance, hope you can see it, the Eight of Batons. And this is one of the reasons I like the Rider deck, because there's a picture in each card. Okay, so the tarot is visual. And we've all seen movies, and they're visual as well. So I'm suggesting that we look at a card as if it were a poster for a movie. So when you look at a poster advertising a movie, you can get an idea of what the movie is about. It doesn't tell the whole story, of course, but there are clues and images on the picture or on the advert so we can understand what the movie's about. So think of James Bond, right? You get James, you got a gun, probably a beautiful woman or two, and maybe a space station, for instance. So you sort of get the idea of the poster, and we know what it's about or what the movie's about, and we know it's not a comedy. This is the cover for Collateral. I hope you can see that. There's Tom Cruise with a gun, and there's Jamie Foxx. So Tom Cruise is the bad guy because he's got the gun, and he looks menacing. And Jamie Foxx over here is the hero who saves the day. And the movie's mainly about these two people. So in the same way that we can look at a poster and understand it, we can look at a card and tell its story. So here we have the Eight of Batons, and let's say it's reversed, and it's the first card in a Celtic cross. So you look at it and think, if it were upright, it would have shown things coming to a successful conclusion because, the arrows are reaching their goal. So we know that you made the right decision earlier, or that you had a good plan, or whatever the decision was, or whatever the decisions were, they were useful and valuable, and that's why you're having a successful outcome. So you can do a lot, even though you're looking at batons, you can figure out what happened before. But let's say it's reversed. So instead of things coming to a successful conclusion, maybe the question is dragging their heels. So things have slowed down, or maybe you lost enthusiasm, or things haven't worked out as you wanted or as you expected. Or maybe you wanted movement, but there is none, or there isn't enough. So when reading a card, look at the picture and just talk without trying. And you'll give the questioner enough information that they can understand what's going on. You don't really need to give them all the details and all the specifics. So if you're on your own and studying, try this approach to a card, and it'll bring the card to life. And then remember the question, or think about what the question could be about if you're doing a theoretical thing, and you'll be able to talk more easily about the card and give a more complete answer. So a related position to do with movies is to see the card as a movie still. So look at the card as if it were a single frame from the movie. So we can get an idea of what has been happening, what's going on now, and what's likely to follow up. So this is the Eight of Cups, for instance, right? It looks like somebody has been walking beside a river, okay, or beside water, and is presently on his way to beyond this kind of situation that they're left behind. Okay, he's come a certain distance and he's got somewhere to go. So there's more work to be done. Right, it's not the end. And indicating that there's more work to be done can be an important part of the answer. So we have 8 cups in the foreground, right? They're neatly arranged in 2 groups of 5 and 3. So they may have already been set up like that, and we can imagine the traveller coming along, stopping for a moment and wondering who arranged the cups. Or maybe he did it himself. Okay, so in a reading, the questioner might have just begun moving again after a pause. So if the question is, will I get a new job? We can think that the questioner maybe has re-entered the job market after being out of it for a while, or has restarted efforts to find a job and is in decent shape for the future. Because, we've got the 5 and the 3 left behind, and that's nice, an indication that things have been set up properly. Or let's say the question is, what's going to happen in my marriage? We can look at the neatly arranged cups, and cups represent emotion. So because the cups are neatly arranged, we can see you're in good shape, and you're going to be able to make a new start, or you're going to get on with the next stage of the relationship, whatever it happens to be. If the card had been reversed, then the cups upside down would indicate that emotions would have got the better of you. So your partner knew how to push your buttons or upset you, and you haven't got over it. So you're going to be repeating the old behaviours, even though they should have been left behind. Right? So it's looking at the card as if it were a still, figure out what went on before, what's coming up next. So that's point 1, to look at the card and figure out what the story is, what's going on, and where it's going to lead. And the second point is, I think you need a philosophy if you're going to read for yourself as well as for other people. Because maybe you're used to telling people what to do with about a particular problem that they're asking about. And that can be okay, but you may not be helping them to be able to figure out for themselves what to do in similar circumstances. Right? So somebody's got a problem and you say, okay, get a lawyer to write a letter stating your position, and that'll take care of the problem. So the question goes off, they hire the lawyer, they write the letter, and it works. But problems or lessons keep coming back if we haven't learned all we need to learn about that particular situation or problem or lesson. So there's a similar problem, and you get the lawyer to write another letter, but it doesn't work. And now you're stuck. So you have to go back to the reader and ask another question. How do I deal with this particular problem? That's when somebody's told what to do. On the other hand, if the reader had given the questioner some understanding about what was going on, instead of just giving instructions and orders to follow, if they'd given them understanding of what the dynamics of the situation were, then they would have had knowledge they could apply in other situations or conditions, so they could have solved other problems. And I think this is a good thing, to give questioners understanding, deliberately to give them understanding. Some people may disagree with this. So let's say my relationship is going badly, and you tell me one thing to do, and that'll make it better, and it works. However, there's probably more than one thing wrong in the relationship. So I can do what you say, and it's okay for a few days or a few weeks, but then something else crops up, or another problem surfaces, and I'm back in trouble. However, if you can give me an idea of what's going on generally with relationships, or with my understanding of relationships at that moment, then I've got a better chance of making progress or solving my own problem. And I think the point is that you, the reader, need a philosophy. And it's a good idea to give some philosophy to the questioner in the reading or in the answer. But I'm not saying you need to study Plato and quote Aristotle, though that can be good. But the word philosophy is made up of 2 parts. The phil part at the beginning means love of. And the Sophia part at the end is wisdom. So with philosophy, we're dealing with love of wisdom. Right? It's not Aristotle and dead Greek people. So where are we going to find this wisdom, or where are we going to find wise words? We're not going to find them on news programs, or on TV, or in newspapers, or in So You Think You Can Dance. I mention it because it's popular, but also I hate that show, and I just wanted to get it off my chest. So, on the other hand, you'll find wisdom in Shakespeare and poetry and philosophy and Bob Dylan, because he wrote, and maybe he said, he not busy being born is a busy dying. And that's a good point to make to some people, to remind them to participate in life, right, and get them to make an effort. There's also, I remembered when I was thinking about what to say here, a singer wrote, life is like a maze of doors, and they all open from the side you're on, right? So we can make progress. So I like that as well. So if you're hungry, don't shop for food, because you'll end up buying stuff you don't want or need. You get home and wonder why you bought this thing, whatever it was. If you're depressed, don't read for yourself, because you're going to see misery in the cards even when it doesn't exist. So if you're depressed, look for wise words first, not to change, but to re-establish your connection with a positive state of mind. So spend time with liberating ideas and get yourself back in shape. Books. This is The Mystic Masters Speak by Vernon Howard. Very good. Quotes, like 1,700 quotes from all sorts of famous people. Go on the internet and look up famous quotes and find something there. This is a book by Eric Butterworth called Discover the Power Within You. And there's a link to this one and various other things at www.thetarot.ca if you're interested in going there. Otherwise, just go on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or something and look for Eric Butterworth. Good book. Or Vernon Howard. This is something else by Vernon Howard. Inspire yourself. Lots of little short stories, short paragraphs that give you a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of insight into what's really going on with people and why they behave the way they behave. And, you know, what's really going on with people. The games we play with ourselves and the games we play with other people. And then, favourite of mine, the I Ching Workbook by Robert Wing. Interesting to just sort of wonder what's going on. Close your eyes, point your finger, and that, whatever it happens to be, is the answer to your question. It's quite useful to do that at the end of a reading, to have an oracle like this and just point your finger, because you'll be surprised, maybe not, but you'll be pleased at how often the paragraph here really sums up what you've been talking about for 20 minutes or half an hour with the questioner. And then another one is The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power by Vernon Howard again. So look at a card as if it's a movie still or a poster, and it'll come alive. And be developing your own philosophy and think about and read and consider the kinds of advice and suggestions that wise people in our past have given us. That's it for the moment. Thank you very much.